Hey, welcome to episode 5 of the My Inner Struggle podcast. I'm Laura.
Hi, I'm Julie.
I started the My Inner Struggle blog about it
Nope.
wasn't 5 years ago. It was 8 years ago.
It was 8 years ago.
It
Yeah.
was 8 years ago.
Time
And
flies when you're having fun.
it does. And it was after some life change to just sort of reboot and share my journey with everyone. And I'm really excited to be able to share it here now with all of you. So last week, what did we talk about last week?
Last week, you're so crazy.
That's terrible.
Our podcast was all about inner strength.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Your desire must be bigger than your fear. Listen, we're both moms. We work. I own a business.
Yeah.
We do all sorts of things. So anyway,
So sometimes our brains don't work.
Yeah, and you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. This weekend, I wanted to share something interesting. I figured I'd volunteer. I actually had the opportunity to go with a client of mine who's in recovery to an AA meeting, and it was really interesting. I really thoroughly enjoyed myself, and it's very insightful. And I was really happy to be a part of it. I think being in the space where I am, because I'm constantly changing, I feel like I've been changing legit for 8 years in a row. And no matter what, evolving.
You're evolving.
I'm evolving. Yeah. And you're not always accepted by everyone. And being in that environment, she was celebrating 2 years of sobriety. Congratulations, Erin. You're doing amazing, and you're an inspiration to a lot of people. And to be a part of that was really cool. And in that room, I don't think I've ever felt more welcome in a space. And obviously they pride themselves on that, with the entire Alcoholics Anonymous following. And to be accepting. But as I was in the room, it was really interesting because we all kind of are fundamentally the same. And, I struggled loving myself my entire life until, I started my whole evolution. And you can see the sadness and you hear the stories, but fundamentally, people don't feel that they deserve more, or they don't love themselves enough. They, are seeking change, but you're lost in the process. And of course, when you're and that is the epitome of working on yourself, obviously making a huge lifestyle change like that. So I commend everyone in recovery. I commend everyone considering recovery or anything in that realm of being. And that was just really awesome experience.
I'm sure she was grateful to have you there, to have the support.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was really great. How was your weekend?
Mine was good. Mine was good. I had all the feels this week. I put up on Facebook. My daughter had her first high school softball scrimmage.
First, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then my son had his first high school scrimmage. So
that's kind of neat.
Opposite ends of the spectrum. She's playing her last year. He's gone into his first. So that was kind of interesting to be able to see both of those. And then my daughter finally committed and picked a college, which has been weighing on us for a few months now. So I'm happy that she's, I'm happy that she's committed to furthering herself, but at the same time, it's going to be tough.
It's weird.
It's going to be tough not to have her in the house. She was giving her brother a really hard time this morning, and I asked her if she was going to call him every morning from school just to be a jerk to him. She's like, well, yeah, how else will he start his day?
Honestly, it was kind of funny because yesterday morning I was laying in bed. I kind of overslept a little bit. I had stayed up too late the night before. Big surprise, right? So I slept in a little bit too late. Not that it was that late. But, my oldest can drive, and so she could drive her brother to school, but she chooses not to because, there's if he calls me annoying, why should I have to? And I agree with her. She absolutely shouldn't have to, but he missed the bus. So I heard them going back and forth, and I was like, I'm just going to stay up here and let them figure it out, because I don't always want to get involved. They need to figure out how to do that themselves at times, right? So that was kind of like a mom win for me. I was like, I'm just going to observe this argument. She did take him. And
Okay.
I'm sure there were some words back and forth, but you know what?
Yeah.
That's how we grow, right? We
Yeah.
have to challenge them.
Yeah. Well,
So, any other highlights?
no, it was actually kind of low key, which is nice. Knowing that the next few months are not going to be low key.
Yeah, that is true. You've got
So
a busy schedule
yeah,
going.
so it's but it was nice. It was a good weekend.
Good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about our topic this week.
Me
So I'm going to introduce it,
too.
and then I really am dying to know what your love language is.
Yes.
So we talked about if you had watched or listened to the podcast last week, we talked about introducing the 5 love languages, and I encourage you to go online and just Google 5 love languages quiz and take the quiz and see what yours is. But it's all based on a book by Gary Chapman. Actually, this is the book here. And this book actually was given to me by someone that I worked with, just as my marriage was ending. And he gave it to me and he signed the inside or whatever. And he was like, "This is what you need to carry with you to your next adventure." And I was on a flight out to Denver and I read the entire thing and it was really interesting. So, do you want to introduce the 5 love languages or do you want me to introduce them?
You can go ahead and
Okay.
introduce the 5. Yeah.
So the 5 and love languages, and of course, I just want to reiterate the fact that we refer to them, kind of, and even on the book, it's like romantic, but they're not. It's not just limited to that. It is every relationship in your life, basically, and this is how you receive love,
You
and
receive and give.
and
It's,
give,
it's your,
right?
Yeah.
But people may give different than they receive as well. Just to put that out there, and we may all 5 may be important to us, and they could be very close, like on when you take your test. So the first one is words of affirmation. And that would be like receiving compliments and things like that. The second is acts of service. So one thing that I've always admired about your husband is that he brings you coffee in bed every morning, and
Every
I've always
morning.
been very jealous of that, and that is a true act of service. Receiving gifts is another. So if you are shown love by what you're receiving from the other person, yeah, like so quality time, that's an important one. Actually, if I may, that is my love language, but
Okay.
I'll talk about that. And physical touch. So and I think that's kind of self-explanatory in a way.
Well, it can be hugs. It can be holding hands.
I know. What did you think I meant?
I thought you were going down a dirty path. To
No,
be honest.
no.
Let's be honest.
I just meant, Anyway. Okay, so you took the quiz.
So I did. I took the quiz.
All right.
So oddly enough, Saturday was Nicole's birthday. Not that that's odd because everybody's birthday. Happy birthday, Nicole!
Happy birthday, Nicole!
And we were out. We were out for dinner. We had gone out together. And we were talking about the podcast, and I was talking about the love languages, and she said, "Well, have you taken your test yet?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And she's like, "Let's take them." So we're sitting at a bar, having drinks, and we're both on our phones taking the love language test, right? But before we did, she's like, "Okay, I think you're going to be this." And I was like, "Okay," and so I said, we took our tests, and what did you think I was going to be?
Well, should I say that first?
Yeah, you tell me what you think.
Okay, so I think you're acts of service.
Okay. And what makes you think I'm acts of service?
Just by knowing you, like you're always doing. Yeah. You're doing.
So Nicole said, "I think you're acts of service," and I said, "Well, why would you think that?" And she's like, "Because no matter where you go, you always do stuff. And she's like, you always bring food, appetizers, dip, wine, whatever." I'm like, so basically, I'm a chubby wino. I was like, I don't think that's a love language. And she goes, "No, it most certainly is." But yes, so my love language is acts of service.
Yes, got it.
Yeah.
Well, and as you brought our snack here today, she came into the office and we're working, and she's like, "Here, I brought you a snack in case you're hungry," because
Well, that's just what I do.
That's so nice.
I think I got that a lot from my mom, which Nicole even pointed out. My mom was a huge, and to this day, I still, if we have friends over, which I love to entertain, I love to have people over, I make way too much food always. And my husband's always like,
still waiting on my invite, but
Deb's here again, just making too much food, so
yes.
it's but yes, so it is acts of service. But I had my husband take the
Yes.
test,
Okay.
and Nicole had her husband take the test.
Wow, this got
Well,
bigger than I thought. I didn't know any of this,
yes.
and this is so fun.
Well, we were sitting at the bar, so we texted both of them like the link and said, "Okay, take the test." So, but before I tell you what it is, do you know the number one love language for females?
I don't.
It's quality time.
Oh, okay, that
So
makes sense.
quality time is actually the number one female love language. And quality time, I mean, it can be anything from just like hanging out, watching TV
Right.
together, to going on dates, to doing, to being, intimate. But it's about the the quality of the time. So
Yeah.
not being on your phones,
Right.
like really that uninterrupted, just time, that face to face time,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that a lot of women do crave that, because we do go all day,
So
we do
mine
so
has
much.
always been quality
Yeah,
time. And actually when I took it like years ago, I was like, yeah, there's no, yeah, duh.
yeah,
It's not. And that's for, like I said, all of my relationships. There's nothing that I love more than like being able to like FaceTime you and actually spend time talking and sort of like being in the conversation, not doing other things or whatever.
yeah,
And that was really important to me, in my marriage and then in my relationship after that. And what's interesting about mine though is like it's almost like paired with some other things too. So like how I said you can take the quiz
yeah.
and you could have two that are like just a point different or whatever. So mine, I have three that are pretty close. So my top is quality time, and the second is acts of service and a tie with physical touch. So like that's something to me. So I've learned throughout my evolution that the quality time was super important, because I didn't get a lot of attention as a kid. So like when I have, there was four kids in the family. So
Yeah.
regardless of like what was going on, I loved going to the grocery store with my mom just so that I could get some time with her alone.
Uninterrupted, yeah.
And we would go to ShopRite, the fucking can sale, like whatever, twice that week because it was can sale or
Yeah.
whatever. And I would spend, all that time with her. And I felt like it was hours. It could have been, I have no idea. And we'd come out with two carts full of stuff and whatever. But I had that time. Funny enough, was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was
It's
yesterday.
yesterday? Oh, okay. You knew exactly what I was going to say.
I
That's
did.
pretty funny. Is that, I have this schedule with my kids and their dad and whatever. And it just wound up that yesterday was going to be the day that they were going with their dad. And my son, I see on the Ring camera or whatever, he comes home. So I call him like, what you doing? And he's like, oh, I just go home from school. And I'm like, oh, you're supposed to be at dad's house. He's like, oh, oops. And I'm like, no big deal. I'm like, I'm going to head that way now. I'm going to go to the grocery store. Do you want to come? So he was like, sure. I had the best fucking time
That's
with
what
him
you
at the
said.
grocery store.
Yeah.
It was so silly and stupid. And he was like poking me the entire time. He'd take off with the car or he'd be behind me or, he'd scare me. And obviously I've been told this before by a few people, is that like when I'm in the store and I'm like looking for something or I'm concentrating on something, nothing else exists.
You can't see.
So like I'd turn around and be like right in my face and I jump and he laughs. And then there's other people in the aisle laughing. And I just had the greatest time, and it was just great. And that to me means more than anything. It wouldn't matter what we're doing as long as we're together, spending quality time together.
Quality time together.
And then acts of service, like I really desperately hope that when I do meet someone, that they bring me coffee every morning. Like that is
Yeah.
that is something that I want. I don't need fancy gifts. I don't need that. I just want you.
It's funny because
So
when I took mine, my acts of service was like off the chart. Everything else
I
was
could imagine.
teeny tiny, and they were all very, very close. Like,
Right.
I don't,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the acts of
And they're
service
all
was a
like,
big one.
so you'll see, like, and so I really, really hope that you take the quiz, because the quiz only takes a couple minutes,
Yeah.
but read the book because it's interesting, or listen, to the audio version. But the important part in a relationship especially is communicating these things together, right? So, and if your partner came to you and was like, or I had this happen, this was me, it happened to me, was in my marriage. And quality time is really important to me, and I didn't know that's what the label was at the
Right.
time. But could you take a day off of work and let's just go have lunch together or whatever? And the priorities were different at the time, so that really like affected it. But when you're communicating with your partner what you need, you're doing your part. Now it's up to the receiving partner to communicate back
Right.
and reciprocate. And if if you feel like you're being forced into something, then we need to kind of reevaluate a
Right.
little bit, right? If it's not for you, then maybe, maybe it's worth, talking about,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
And that's like the gateway to everything. The more information that we have, the better we can both develop as a couple and and grow together. Because even, like we work together in business. I had a company that I worked for several years ago. They actually, as two business partners, they would see a therapist together because you need to be able to communicate.
In
So
business,
it's no
yeah.
different with your partner or, you and I, since we're working together, in my business. And, we made a rule, right? We're going to total open communication. And, you called me out, like really, I had written a blog. This was before we started working together, and I called out Raj and Jay. And I was in the
You're
car,
like,
and you're
where's
like,
my
dude,
call
you
out?
know what? You're like, what the fuck is up with that? You called out them. I'm like, what are you talking about? But I'm glad that you did it
Yeah.
because that really mattered to you, and I can't be mad at that. But
Yeah.
honey, it was before your time. Sorry.
Well, technically, I was before their time.
Well, yeah, but
So,
yeah,
I
that's
don't want to
true.
get a timetable out
That
or
is
anything,
true.
but
That is
yikes.
true. But
All right, so love
yes.
language. What's the number one love language for men?
Is this why you got so excited when you came in here today?
No, it was the chubby wino.
Oh, okay.
That went right over your head.
That's really
Okay.
funny. No, it's funny. So I actually had this conversation with Raj like months ago because I had said, we were convening on something, and I had said mine is quality time, and he said to me, he's like, I would guess that that is most women, obviously. So and then he said to me at the time, and then it made sense, is I would err on the side of caution and say that acts of service is probably number one for men.
Okay, he would be wrong. He would be wrong, Raj.
Really?
It's physical touch.
Oh, I'm kind of, well, I don't know if I'm surprised, but I thought it would be acts of service because men are like, the doers, like by nature, they are the hunter gatherers, like all of that. But so interesting.
No,
Okay.
not. Yep. So
that leads me down another path though, right? So like this is like one thing that I hear about, and this is very relationshipy, but this is a lot of men will come to me and say she doesn't want to have sex with me or whatever. Okay, well, what are you doing for her? Are you answering her love language? So if yours is physical touch and she needs quality time to feel close to you,
right.
Dude, you need to spend some time with her in order for
That
her to
not,
feel good so that he
time.
can have his love language fulfilled.
Yeah.
That, yes, exactly. And that is like a huge one for relationships. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, and I mean, and it's so funny because, like I said, I took it, Jeremy took it, but so I 100% agree with you, though.
Yes.
It does.
Uh-oh. I was like,
no,
but what? Okay.
No, I 100% agree with you that communication is key, and then once you communicate, like if you are with a partner, even without a partner, take this and just see what it is. So
yes. Well, it's so much insight into everything. Yes.
It really is. But and then like to your point, if mine is acts of service and his is physical touch or quality time or whatever, are we equally giving each other what the other person needs in order to feel that connection?
Well,
right?
And so, it won't always be 50-50.
No.
It won't always be 50-50. And maybe you have to, when your partner is having a hard time, you might have to put in a little bit more effort, if they're, struggling with their job or whatever. But at the same time, you hope that that partner, when you need the extra support, will be able to support you. And that's where it is. It's a give and take. When you are constantly turned down when you need support or turned away, it's not.
Then you're just turned off.
Right.
You don't want to even try.
Right. And that affects the entire relationship, period, because there has to be a balance somewhere. And that's part of that give and take. Go ahead.
So you know what's coming next, right?
Your quote?
I found a quote.
No, that's good. I think it's a good thing for you.
Yeah. So it's a psychologist, William James, said that possibly the deepest human need is the need to feel appreciated.
Oh, that's a good one.
And it's so true. I mean, I always used to say this, to people that worked for me or that, my bosses over the years, I appreciate you, not
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate this, or oh, thank you, I appreciate it, or I appreciate you. And I think that goes a long way. Why are you smiling?
Because I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. But I do. I think that goes a really long way to
It
how people
it
respond.
it
Yeah,
does, and I think those words of affirmation are
yeah.
important because that is a word of affirmation, right? I appreciate you. But when the action doesn't match the words,
Mm,
it's not really, there has to be action behind
right.
that,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So
it has to be true sentiment.
if somebody is saying like I appreciate you, I just really appreciate you, but they're treating you like shit, obviously you're not a doormat. So that needs to change at some point, right?
No, I'm not a doormat.
No, you're not a doormat. But like as moms and and dads out there, right? Like sometimes you feel so depleted from doing and giving and all of the things.
Yeah.
I shared a meme last week or whatever on the Facebook group, and it was like something about like, I love my children and everything, but I wasn't really signing up to decide what's for dinner for the next how
18 years.
18 years,
Yeah.
right? And as I was going to go grocery shopping, I'm texting, we have a group text, like with my kids, and I'm like, okay, what do you want? And somebody yells out like tomatoes, and I'm like, okay, well, this is like really, in that case, I'd really like to have a family meeting once a week and let's do this together. But I went off track a little bit, I know, big
Shocker.
surprise. But being
I
appreciated is part of, like I know that your kids appreciate you.
Yeah.
I know that my kids appreciate me. They might not always show it, but they
I
do.
agree.
And in fact, like I'm working here at the office and my oldest is like, okay, we're going to have a birthday party for our cat tonight. So I never made it to the store to get the decorations, but I was like, if you could do that, that would be awesome. And that would help me. And she's like, great. And dinner smells great, by the way, because I put it in the crock pot before I left.
Nice.
So like it's a team effort. And when someone says they appreciate you, they should be showing you that as well.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
No,
about
I
that.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I just had a funny grocery shopping
grocery
shopping store.
Yeah.
I usually on Sundays I go to the grocery store and I make my menu for the week and then I make my grocery list based off the menu and it's by section of the grocery store.
Yes, me too.
That's how I roll.
We're so
but
weird.
I always ask the kids, like, is there anything you want for for a snack, for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, anything for school? And without doubt, my son is always like some sort of crazy food. It doesn't. I mean, it's a weird.
I kind of wish I got those. Maybe I wouldn't.
But it's just like this odd stuff, And then now my daughter, every not every week, but really close to it, she's like, "There's this new cleaning spray that I heard smells really good. If you can get that for the bathroom, or
sure, honey.
there's this new thing that if you sprinkle down before you vacuum, it's the craziest thing. That this is what she wants from the grocery store." And Austin's like, "Hey, are there any Dorito covered Twinkies you can find?"
Dorito covered Twinkies, nice.
Stuff. But
that's pretty funny.
Anywho,
oh, and actually, I want to say like a big shout out to my son that won't be watching this, I'm sure, but I'm bringing him to the grocery store with me every week because he can reach the shit I can't reach on the shelf, and that right there was gold. I didn't need to climb a single shelf at ShopRite yesterday. But anyway, so again, take the quiz. I want to hear all about it. Send a message. I want to know, like, this is the one I said last week when we talked about it, right? It's really exciting. Here is the book one more time if you hadn't caught that. But take the quiz online. There's all sorts of information. And again, these are things that we need to communicate in our relationships, all of our relationships with your children, with your spouse, with your friends, coworkers. They all need to know that because it'll help, and it may ease some of the tension between everyone. And it's a great segue into next week too, because we're going to be talking about communication, which is improving your communication. And I've been building a course and I've been talking about it, and I need to get on that, but I've just been so busy, specifically for men in relationships, on how to better communicate with their women. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form telling men that they're the problem. I'm actually kind of telling them that women are the problem because we are complicated and we don't always say exactly what we need to say in order for you to understand what it is that we need. So I kind of love communication. I love love languages and all of that.
It's funny because Nicole and I will say this all the time. We talk about how like I'll get upset with my husband or she'll get upset with her, with hers. And be like, why can't he just do X, Y, or Z? And I'm like, well,
Their brains don't work the same.
and if you never ask him to do X, Y, and Z, but then you're
Yeah.
mad that he didn't do it,
Right.
it's like a slippery slope of,
It is.
So
I'm really excited about it.
yeah.
So thank you for watching. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Check out the blog on myinnerstruggle.com and join the Facebook community, who is growing by the day, and it's very, very exciting. So thanks, and see you next week.